And I like to say it this way: the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus governs my whole life. The law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus rules and reigns over me in every area of my life, emanates from me, saturates me, pours out of me into others that I minister to, and destroys the law of sin and death right out of them. See, this way we need to think as Christians, as ministers of the new covenant. We need to think that way. We need to think, everywhere you go, think that way. I'm carrying God. I'm carrying the power of God where I go. I believe God's pouring out of me into people all the time. And expect something to happen. John G. Lake did. Well, see, that law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus, that's the nature of the new man. Remember, the old man was the law of sin and death. That nature of sin and death. Now, to have the law of the Spirit of life in Christ in you, and it sets you free from the law of sin and death. Remember, the law of sin and death was the nature of sin and death that came into Adam by Satan in the Garden of Eden almost 6,000 years ago. Remember, that's what opened up the door for all sickness. Now, let me say it this way: for all curses. Doesn't matter whether generational curses. Generational curse is not some special curse. No, it just means it's something that's been going down from generation to generation. If I said a weekly curse, what would that mean? It's passed every week. See, don't get all spooky. A lot of people are getting too spooky. I wrote this in my book on the law of the Spirit of life in Christ. You ought to get that book. But so many Christians are just getting too... That's why the world thinks we're flaky and stupid and goofy and nuts. Because of so many Christians that they get real spooky and they try to act super spiritual. I have a chapter in here entitled I got one chapter called The Courts of Heaven, where I'm teaching on the courts of heaven. I've heard a lot of teaching on the courts of heaven. I didn't write the chapter until after I heard a lot. And I think there's a lot of good teaching on the courts of heaven. The Bible talks about God's throne room is described as a courtroom. In the book of Psalms, the book of Daniel, Daniel had a vision and saw God, the Ancient of Days, set up in his throne room. And they're called courts. I mean, this is biblical and scriptural. The throne room of God is also it's considered the courts of heaven. And I like that idea because, see, the courts, to me, one of the main things that I've gotten out of what I've